Hey friends, I'm Megan, so glad you're here. We've got a great episode today. Let's get started.
Her marriage had become a delicate balance of routine and unresolved tensions. A fragile coexistence that masked deeper issues beneath the surface. The years together had been a mix of love, compromise, and growing distance, as everyday stresses and unspoken frustrations slowly eroded the connection they once cherished. Communication had dwindled to practical exchanges, and emotional intimacy had given way to a kind of quiet resignation. Despite efforts to maintain stability, cracks were beginning to show, revealing vulnerabilities and unmet needs that neither fully acknowledged. This underlying strain set the stage for the events that would unfold, coloring her perceptions and decisions in ways she barely understood at the time. At the same time, her work environment offered a contrasting dynamic, a place of ambition, social energy, and occasional flirtation. The office was more than just a workplace. It was a social hub where relationships and power dynamics played out daily. Her boss, a charismatic and influential figure, held a position of authority that carried both professional and personal weight. His presence was commanding, his attention flattering, and his behavior often walked the fine line between professionalism and personal interest. The office culture, with its mix of competitiveness and camaraderie, created an atmosphere ripe for subtle flirtations and ambiguous interactions. This environment was a sharp contrast to the emotional stagnation she experienced at home, drawing her into a different social reality. The upcoming office party was anticipated as a chance to unwind and connect with colleagues outside the rigid structure of work. It promised an evening of laughter, music, and temporary escape from daily pressures. For her, the party represented an opportunity to experience a sense of vitality and engagement that had been lacking in her personal life. The social setting, with its informal dress code and relaxed atmosphere, allowed for interactions that blurred the lines between professional roles and personal expression. It was a space where boundaries could shift, and inhibitions might lower. The anticipation of this event stirred a mix of excitement and apprehension. As she navigated the complexities of her dual worlds, her relationship with her husband at this time was characterized by a growing emotional distance that made her more receptive to attention and connection elsewhere. The lack of fulfillment and communication at home created a void that was subtly filled by the social dynamics at work. This emotional gap was not necessarily conscious but influenced her openness to new interactions. The contrast between her subdued domestic life and the lively office environment highlighted the disparities in her emotional experiences. This imbalance set the stage for the flirtations that would arise, underscoring the interplay between personal dissatisfaction and social temptation. The boss's behavior during the lead-up to the party was consistent with his usual charm and attentiveness, which she initially perceived as flattering and benign. His compliments, subtle touches, and focused attention were deviations from the emotional neglect she felt at home. These interactions offered a sense of being seen and appreciated, sparking feelings of validation and intrigue. The flirtation was nuanced and often ambiguous, leaving room for interpretation and self-deception. She navigated these moments with a mix of curiosity and caution, unaware of the potential consequences that such dynamics could unleash. Within this context, her own feelings and desires were complicated and sometimes contradictory. She grappled with guilt over her emotional distance from her husband and the allure of attention from her boss. The internal conflict between loyalty and longing created a tension that influenced her actions and perceptions. Her self-awareness was limited, and the social pressures of the office environment further blurred her understanding of boundaries and propriety. This emotional complexity added layers to her experience, making the unfolding events more fraught and difficult to navigate. The office party itself was a microcosm of these tensions, a setting where social roles, personal desires, and emotional vulnerabilities intersected. The festive atmosphere, enhanced by music and drinks, lowered inhibitions and encouraged interactions that might be unlikely in other contexts. The convergence of colleagues, social dynamics, and individual emotions created a charged environment where boundaries were tested. For her, the party was both a relief from routine and a catalyst for actions that would have significant repercussions. The interplay of celebration and temptation created a volatile mix, setting the stage for the unfolding drama. Her husband's presence or absence at the party was a significant factor influencing the dynamics. Whether he attended or not, his emotional availability and engagement were critical elements in her experience of the event. The state of their relationship cast a shadow over the evening, coloring her perceptions and choices. His reaction to the social environment and his interactions with her influenced the unfolding narrative. The emotional undercurrents between them during this time were subtle but impactful, shaping the context for what would come. The intersection of personal dissatisfaction, social temptation, and complex power dynamics created a fertile ground for conflict and misunderstanding. The interplay of these factors made the office party a pivotal moment, a crossroads where choices carried heavy emotional weight. This context illuminated the vulnerabilities and challenges inherent in balancing professional and personal lives, especially when emotional needs are unmet. The stage was set for events that would test the boundaries of loyalty, trust, and self-awareness. In reflecting on this phase, it is clear that the confluence of strained relationship dynamics and the charged office environment created conditions ripe for emotional complexity and potential missteps. The subtle interplay of personal dissatisfaction, professional ambition, and social interaction framed the narrative that would unfold. This chapter sets the foundation for understanding the motivations, tensions, and vulnerabilities that shaped the decisions made and the consequences that followed. It reveals the nuanced and multifaceted nature of human relationships and the challenges of navigating fidelity, temptation, and emotional fulfillment in intertwined personal and professional spheres. The atmosphere of the office party was electric, charged with the energy of colleagues shedding their workday personas and embracing a night of socializing and celebration. Within this vibrant setting, the initial sparks of flirtation between her and her boss ignited with an intensity that caught her somewhat off guard. His attention was deliberate and magnetic, a stark contrast to the emotional distance she had grown accustomed to at home. The way he engaged with her, attentive, complimentary, and subtly suggestive, tapped into a longing for validation and connection that had been simmering beneath the surface. The flirtation began as playful banter, a dance of words and glances that both heightened the excitement and blurred the boundaries between professional decorum and personal interest. Her reactions to his advances were complex and multifaceted. On one level, she felt a rush of exhilaration, a welcome distraction from the monotony and frustrations of her everyday life. The attention made her feel seen and desirable, awakening feelings of youthfulness and vitality that had dulled over time. This emotional uplift was intoxicating, feeding into a desire for connection and appreciation that had been unmet in her marriage. However, alongside this thrill was an undercurrent of guilt and confusion. She was aware, albeit sometimes vaguely, of the precariousness of the situation and the risks involved. This internal tension created a nuanced emotional experience, where excitement coexisted with apprehension and self-doubt. The boss's flirtations were marked by a mix of charm and subtle power dynamics. His position of authority added a layer of complexity to their interactions, infusing the exchange with an element of control and influence. His attentions were not only personal but also strategic, reflecting the often intricate social politics of the workplace. This dual nature of his behavior introduced ambiguity, making it difficult for her to fully discern his intentions or the potential consequences. The interplay of attraction and authority created a charged atmosphere that heightened emotional stakes and complicated her responses. The social context of the party further amplified these dynamics. Surrounded by colleagues, some aware and others oblivious to the unfolding flirtation, the public nature of the setting introduced elements of performance and risk. The interplay of observation and discretion shaped their interactions. As they navigated the line between public appearance and private intention, this social pressure added to the intensity of the moment, heightening both excitement and anxiety. The presence of others created a backdrop of potential judgment and consequence that loomed over their exchanges. Her husband's absence or emotional disengagement during the party was a significant factor, influencing the development of the flirtation. Whether physically present or emotionally distant, his lack of attention created a void that the boss's advances began to fill. This absence was not merely physical but emotional, reflecting the broader issues in their relationship. The contrast between her husband's disengagement and her boss's attentiveness highlighted unmet needs and vulnerabilities. This disparity shaped her receptiveness to the flirtation and underscored the emotional complexity of her situation. As the evening progressed, the flirtation escalated from subtle gestures and conversation to more direct and intimate exchanges. The boundaries that might have restrained such interactions in other circumstances became increasingly porous in the festive atmosphere. The influence of alcohol, music, and the collective mood of celebration lowered inhibitions and facilitated bolder behavior. This escalation was both thrilling and disorienting, creating a sense of momentum that was difficult to interrupt. The interplay of social cues and personal desire propelled the interaction forward, deepening the emotional and physical connection between them. Her internal dialogue during this escalation was fraught with conflict. She oscillated between indulging in the pleasure of attention and awareness of the potential consequences. The flirtation awakened desires and fantasies that contrasted sharply with her marital commitments. This tension between longing and loyalty created a psychological battleground, where impulses and values clashed. Her self-perception and sense of identity were challenged. As she navigated feelings of empowerment and vulnerability, the emotional complexity of this internal struggle was a critical aspect of the unfolding drama. The reactions of those around them added further layers to the experience. Some colleagues might have sensed the undercurrents, while others remained unaware or indifferent. The social dynamics of the group, including alliances, rivalries, and shared histories, influenced perceptions and responses. These external factors shaped the context in which the flirtation occurred, adding dimensions of social risk and intrigue. The presence of witnesses heightened the stakes and underscored the public nature of private emotions and actions. Throughout this period, the flirtation was a mix of genuine connection and performative interaction. It served both as an expression of personal attraction and as a social dance within the norms and expectations of the office environment. This duality added complexity to her experience, as she grappled with the authenticity of her feelings and the constructed nature of social interaction. The interplay between real emotion and social performance created a rich and ambiguous emotional landscape. Ultimately, the flirtation at the office party was a pivotal moment that illuminated underlying tensions and desires. It exposed vulnerabilities and unmet needs, while also setting in motion events that would profoundly impact her personal life. The complexity of emotions and social dynamics during this time reflected the intricate nature of human relationships and the challenges of navigating boundaries in overlapping spheres of life. This chapter captures the excitement, conflict, and ambiguity that characterized the early stages of flirtation, setting the stage for the dramatic consequences that followed. The breaking point came swiftly, a moment charged with raw emotion and irreversible consequences that shattered the fragile equilibrium of her marriage. What began as playful flirtation at the office party escalated into a confrontation that neither could ignore or evade. Her husband's reaction was immediate and visceral, a manifestation of shock, hurt, and betrayal that erupted like a sudden storm. The sight of his wife engaging with her boss in a way that crossed unspoken boundaries triggered a profound sense of abandonment and disbelief. This moment laid bare the fractures that had long existed beneath the surface, transforming hidden tensions into an undeniable rupture. His departure from the party was abrupt and definitive, an act that spoke volumes about the depth of his pain and the severity of the perceived breach. Leaving without explanation or negotiation, he severed the connection in a way that forced her to confront the gravity of the situation. His exit was both a physical and symbolic withdrawal, signaling not just anger but a loss of faith and trust. The immediacy of his response left little room for dialogue or reconciliation in that moment, amplifying the sense of crisis. This act was a turning point, marking the transition from ambiguity and tension to confrontation and consequence. Her own reaction to his departure was a complex mix of shock, confusion, and dawning realization. Initially, there was disbelief, a hope that the situation could be contained or explained away. As the reality set in, a wave of guilt and remorse washed over her, accompanied by fear about the potential fallout. She grappled with understanding the impact of her actions and the depth of her husband's hurt. This emotional upheaval was disorienting, challenging her to reconcile the intentions behind her behavior with the consequences it had unleashed. The collision of personal desire and relational responsibility created a tumultuous internal landscape. The immediate aftermath was marked by silence and emotional distance. The physical absence of her husband was mirrored by a broader withdrawal of connection and communication. This vacuum created a space filled with tension, uncertainty, and unspoken questions. The absence was palpable, intensifying feelings of isolation and vulnerability. The breakdown in dialogue prevented immediate resolution and deepened the emotional chasm. This silence became both a symptom and a catalyst of the growing estrangement. The social context of the party added further complexity to the situation. Colleagues and acquaintances, aware of the unfolding drama, became unwitting witnesses to the fracture. The public nature of the event meant that private pain was experienced within a social arena, subject to observation, speculation, and judgment. This exposure heightened the emotional stakes, adding embarrassment and shame to the existing feelings of hurt. Navigating the aftermath required managing not only personal emotions but also the perceptions and reactions of the broader social group. Her husband's departure was also a reflection of deeper issues in their relationship that had been simmering beneath the surface. The incident at the party was not merely about the flirtation but about long-standing feelings of neglect, mistrust, and dissatisfaction. His reaction was amplified by these accumulated grievances, making the moment a catalyst rather than an isolated event. This context underscores the complexity of relational dynamics, where a single incident can trigger profound emotional responses shaped by history and unresolved conflicts. The emotional toll of this breaking point was significant for both partners. For him, it was a moment of profound disappointment and hurt, challenging his capacity to forgive and move forward. For her, It was a confrontation with the consequences of her actions and the fragility of trust both faced. The daunting task of processing intense emotions and making sense of the rupture. The psychological impact extended beyond the immediate event, influencing their perceptions of themselves and each other. This moment also highlighted the role of boundaries and expectations in intimate relationships. The crossing of perceived lines at the party violated implicit agreements about loyalty and respect. The breach of these boundaries sparked feelings of betrayal and loss that resonated deeply. Understanding the importance of boundaries became central to the unfolding narrative, emphasizing their function in maintaining trust and safety in relationships. The breaking point was a catalyst for change, forcing both to confront realities that had been previously ignored or minimized. It created an urgent need for reflection, communication, and decision-making. The intensity of the moment underscored the vulnerability of human connections and the ease with which they can be disrupted. This phase was a crucible of emotional truth, setting the stage for the subsequent challenges and potential transformations. In the wake of the husband's departure, the protagonist faced a profound sense of uncertainty and fear. The future of the marriage was suddenly unclear, and the path forward was fraught with emotional peril. She was left to navigate the consequences of her choices and the possibility of loss. This moment of crisis was both an end and a beginning, a point from which new narratives could emerge, shaped by the lessons learned and the courage to confront difficult truths. Ultimately, this chapter marks a dramatic and pivotal juncture in their story. It reveals the power of actions and reactions to alter the course of relationships irrevocably. The breaking point captures the fragility of trust and the emotional weight of betrayal, illuminating the complex interplay of desire, loyalty, and consequence. It sets the emotional tone for the difficult journey that follows, one defined by confrontation, reflection, and the quest for resolution. The aftermath of the husband's abrupt departure from the office party plunged their lives into a period of intense emotional turmoil and practical challenges that permeated both their personal and professional worlds. The immediate shock of the event gave way to a prolonged phase of uncertainty, wherein unspoken tensions, fractured communication, and painful introspection dominated their daily existence. The once familiar rhythms of marriage and work were disrupted, replaced by an atmosphere heavy with regret, suspicion, and the struggle to make sense of what had transpired. This chapter of their story is marked by the raw exposure of vulnerabilities and the daunting task of navigating the complex fallout of a moment that had irrevocably altered their relationship. At home, the absence of her husband was felt acutely, creating a void that extended beyond physical separation to encompass emotional distance and uncertainty about the future. The silence between them was deafening, a space filled with unanswered questions and unexpressed pain. This lack of communication exacerbated feelings of isolation and confusion, as each grappled with their own perceptions and emotions without the support of dialogue. The home, once a sanctuary, became a site of tension and discomfort, reflecting the fractured state of their connection. The absence of shared understanding deepened the divide, making reconciliation more elusive. The emotional landscape during this period was tumultuous. She experienced waves of guilt, shame, and regret, compounded by fear of losing her marriage and the life they had built together. These feelings were intertwined with anger and frustration, both at herself and at the circumstances. The complexity of her emotions mirrored the broader chaos engulfing their lives, creating an internal conflict that was difficult to resolve. Her husband, meanwhile, navigated his own pain and sense of betrayal, struggling to reconcile his feelings with the reality of their situation. The emotional interplay between them was fraught, marked by hurt and the challenge of finding a path forward. The workplace environment became a secondary arena of conflict and complexity. The office party incident did not remain private. Rumors, gossip, and speculation spread among colleagues, intensifying the social pressures and awkwardness. The protagonist found herself at the center of whispered conversations and pointed looks. Her professional reputation entangled with her personal crisis. Navigating this public scrutiny added layers of stress and vulnerability, complicating her ability to focus and engage at work. The intersection of personal turmoil and professional responsibilities created a challenging landscape that demanded resilience and discretion. Her relationship with her boss, the catalyst for the evening's events, was also affected by the aftermath. The flirtation that had once seemed playful and inconsequential now carried the weight of consequences. The dynamics between them shifted, influenced by the new realities and the need to redefine boundaries. This change added another dimension to her emotional and professional challenges. As she sought to maintain professionalism while processing the fallout, the evolving nature of this relationship underscored the complexities of workplace interactions and the potential for personal entanglements to disrupt professional environments. Social support, or the lack thereof, played a critical role in shaping her experience during this difficult time. Friends and family responded in varied ways, offering empathy, judgment, or distance. The mixed reactions influenced her emotional state and sense of isolation. Some sources of support provided comfort and validation, while others intensified feelings of shame and alienation. Navigating these social dynamics required emotional strength and strategic engagement. The interplay of support and judgment highlighted the importance of social context in the process of coping with personal crises. The practical realities of daily life continued to impose demands amidst the emotional chaos. Responsibilities related to work, household management, and social obligations persisted, creating a tension between external expectations and internal turmoil. Balancing these demands required considerable effort and resilience. The challenge of maintaining appearances and fulfilling roles while grappling with personal pain underscored the multifaceted nature of human experience. This balancing act was a testament to her determination and the complexity of navigating life. During times of crisis, reflection and self-examination became central themes in this period. The protagonist grappled with understanding the factors that led to the breakdown, her role in the events, and the possibilities for repair or renewal. This introspective process was challenging but necessary, fostering personal insight and emotional growth. She confronted uncomfortable truths about her desires, boundaries, and the vulnerabilities that had shaped her decisions. This journey of reflection illuminated the intricate interplay between choice and circumstance, intention and consequence. The strain on the marriage prompted difficult conversations and confrontations. Even if initially tentative or indirect, both partners were forced to confront the realities of their relationship and the emotional damage inflicted. These dialogues, fraught with pain and defensiveness, were critical in determining the trajectory of their future together. The negotiation of forgiveness, trust, and boundaries became central challenges. The capacity to engage in honest and empathetic communication was tested, highlighting the fragility and resilience inherent in intimate relationships. Therapeutic support, whether formal or informal, played a role in navigating the aftermath. Counseling, whether individual or couples-based, provided a framework for processing emotions, exploring underlying issues, and developing coping strategies. Engagement with therapy offered a space for validation, understanding, and the development of tools to rebuild or redefine the relationship. This support was instrumental in fostering healing and providing direction amidst the chaos. The experience of dealing with the consequences extended beyond the immediate individuals, affecting broader social and familial networks. The ripple effects of the incident and its fallout influenced relationships with extended family, mutual friends, and social circles. Managing these broader relational dynamics added complexity and emotional labor. The interconnectedness of personal crises and social contexts became evident, emphasizing the multifaceted impact of relational ruptures. Ultimately, this chapter of aftermath and consequence is a poignant exploration of the challenges faced when personal boundaries are crossed and trust is broken. It reveals the emotional and practical difficulties of navigating rupture and repair in intimate relationships. The story underscores the importance of communication, support, and self-awareness in the healing process. This phase lays the groundwork for subsequent journeys of forgiveness, growth, and potential reconciliation or transformation. It is a testament to the resilience and complexity of human connections in the face of adversity. The emotional journey through guilt, regret, and the quest for understanding was one of the most profound and challenging phases in her experience. In the wake of the office party incident and the subsequent departure of her husband, she found herself confronting a flood of complex emotions that permeated every aspect of her life. The initial shock of the event gave way to a deep and often overwhelming sense of responsibility for the pain caused, both to her husband and to herself. This period was marked by intense self-reflection, emotional upheaval, and the gradual unfolding of insight into her actions, motivations, and their consequences. Guilt became a constant companion, a weight that pressed on her conscience and shaped her thoughts and feelings. She wrestled with the realization that her choices at the party, however seemingly innocent in the moment, had profound ramifications. The flirtation with her boss was not just a fleeting lapse but a breach of trust that deeply hurt the person she loved. This awareness of betrayal, even if unintentional, fueled feelings of remorse and self-reproach. She grappled with the moral and emotional dimensions of her behavior, questioning her judgment and the boundaries she had crossed. The experience of guilt was raw and unrelenting, challenging her to confront the depth of her impact on the relationship. Regret intertwined with guilt, coloring her reflections with sorrow and longing for what could have been. She mourned the loss of trust, the disruption of her marriage, and the damage to her own self-image. The awareness that a single evening's actions had irrevocably altered the course of her life was a heavy burden. This regret was not only about the event itself but also about the broader patterns and choices that had contributed to the relational breakdown. She contemplated the moments when different decisions might have preserved their bond or prevented the cascade of pain. This emotional landscape was layered with both personal accountability and the harsh reality of consequences. Understanding her own motivations and vulnerabilities became a central focus of her introspection. She explored the emotional needs and unmet desires that had made her susceptible to her boss's attention. The emotional distance in her marriage, feelings of neglect, and the longing for validation were key factors that illuminated her actions. This process of self-discovery was difficult but necessary, revealing the interplay of personal insecurities and relational dynamics. She came to recognize that her behavior was not simply a moral failing but a complex response to emotional deprivation and unmet needs. This insight fostered a more compassionate and nuanced view of herself. The journey toward understanding also involved grappling with the dynamics of power and attraction that had influenced the office party flirtation. She reflected on the role of her boss's authority and charisma, and how these factors complicated the interaction. The recognition of these external influences added depth to her self-examination, highlighting the multifaceted nature of human behavior. This awareness was critical in disentangling feelings of agency and vulnerability, helping her to contextualize her experience within a broader social and psychological framework. Throughout this period, she experienced fluctuating emotions, shame, sadness, hope, and determination, that reflected the nonlinear path of healing. Moments of despair were followed by glimpses of hope and resolve, illustrating the complexity of emotional processing. She learned to tolerate discomfort and uncertainty, embracing the ambiguity of her feelings. This emotional resilience was crucial in navigating the challenging terrain of regret and self-forgiveness. The acceptance of emotional complexity allowed her to move beyond simplistic judgments and toward a deeper understanding of herself and her situation. The role of empathy emerged as a powerful force in her healing process. She sought to empathize not only with herself but also with her husband and others affected by the events. This expansion of perspective fostered a sense of connection and compassion, softening feelings of isolation and blame. Empathy became a bridge that linked her past actions with present growth, enabling her to hold complexity without becoming overwhelmed. This development was essential in fostering forgiveness and the potential for reconciliation. Forgiveness, both sought and given, was a pivotal aspect of this chapter. She struggled with forgiving herself, recognizing that self-compassion was necessary for genuine healing. The internal dialogue around forgiveness was fraught with resistance and acceptance, reflecting the difficulty of letting go of guilt while honoring accountability. This process was gradual and required persistent effort and support. The act of forgiving herself was transformative, opening space for healing and emotional freedom. It also laid the groundwork for any possibility of repairing relationships or moving forward with integrity. The support of trusted confidants, whether friends, family, or professionals, played a vital role in her journey. Sharing her feelings and receiving validation helped to alleviate feelings of isolation and shame. These connections provided a sounding board for reflection and encouragement, fostering resilience and hope. The presence of compassionate listeners reinforced the value of vulnerability and openness in healing. This social support was an indispensable resource, complementing her internal work and strengthening her resolve. Her reflections also encompassed lessons learned about boundaries, communication, and emotional needs. She recognized the importance of setting and respecting boundaries to protect relationships and personal integrity. The experience highlighted the need for honest and open communication about desires and disappointments. These insights informed her vision for future relationships, emphasizing the value of mutual respect and emotional transparency. The lessons gleaned from regret and understanding became guiding principles for personal growth. Ultimately, this chapter of guilt, regret, and understanding was a crucible of transformation. The pain of recognizing mistakes and their impact fueled a commitment to change and healing. The journey illuminated the complexities of human emotion and behavior, emphasizing the need for compassion and self-awareness. This phase marked a critical turning point, where past actions were confronted with honesty and the possibility of renewal. It is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring capacity for growth. Through adversity, her story during this time serves as a powerful reminder of the intertwined nature of love, betrayal, and forgiveness. It illustrates the emotional depth required to navigate mistakes and their consequences with grace and integrity. The chapter underscores that true understanding involves embracing complexity and holding oneself accountable while extending compassion. This period of reflection and emotional work laid the foundation for healing and the pursuit of a more authentic and fulfilling life. The journey toward moving forward after the emotional upheaval was neither simple nor linear, but it was marked by gradual healing, personal growth, and the cautious embrace of new possibilities. In the wake of the betrayal, guilt, and regret, she found herself at a crossroads. Faced with the challenge of reconstructing her identity beyond the pain and rebuilding a life that reflected her newfound insights. This chapter of her life was characterized by the arduous yet hopeful process of reclaiming agency, redefining relationships, and cultivating resilience in the face of uncertainty. Central to this transformation was the cultivation of self-compassion. She learned to move beyond self-criticism and shame, recognizing that healing requires kindness toward oneself and acceptance of human imperfection. This shift was pivotal in fostering emotional resilience and enabling her to engage with her past without being overwhelmed by it. By embracing her vulnerabilities and mistakes as part of her growth, she developed a nurturing inner dialogue that supported ongoing recovery. This self-compassion became the foundation upon which she rebuilt her confidence and emotional well-being. Reconnecting with her social support network was a critical step in her journey. She reached out to friends, family, and trusted confidants who provided validation, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. These relationships offered a counterbalance to feelings of isolation and shame, reminding her that she was not alone in her struggles. Through shared experiences and empathetic listening, she found solace and strength. These connections also facilitated new perspectives and opportunities for growth, highlighting the importance of community in healing processes. Her professional life also played a significant role in her path forward. Immersing herself in work and new projects allowed her to channel energy into productive and fulfilling endeavors. The structure and goals provided by her career contributed to a renewed sense of purpose and accomplishment. Engaging in professional challenges reinforced her self-efficacy and helped to restore a sense of identity independent of her personal life struggles. This reinvigoration was essential in balancing emotional recovery with practical progress. A key aspect of her healing was the redefinition of boundaries in relationships. She developed a clearer understanding of what she needed to feel safe and respected, both in romantic partnerships and social interactions. This awareness empowered her to set and maintain boundaries that protected her emotional health and fostered mutual respect. The lessons learned from past experiences informed this process, enabling her to navigate relationships with greater clarity and assertiveness. Establishing these boundaries was a vital component of rebuilding trust, first in herself, and then with others. Her evolving perspective on love and fidelity was also transformative. She came to see these concepts as dynamic and multifaceted, requiring ongoing communication, empathy, and commitment from all parties involved. This broadened understanding shaped her approach to future relationships. Encouraging openness and authenticity, she embraced vulnerability as a strength rather than a liability, allowing for deeper connections grounded in mutual support and honesty. This shift reflected a maturation of emotional intelligence and relational skills. Forgiveness, both toward herself and others, was a cornerstone of her healing journey. She recognized that holding on to resentment or self-blame hindered her ability to move forward. The process of forgiving did not imply forgetting or excusing past actions but represented a conscious choice to release the hold of pain and cultivate peace. This emotional liberation opened space for hope and renewed engagement with life. Forgiveness was intertwined with self-compassion and empathy, forming a triad that supported her ongoing transformation. Throughout this period, she cultivated hope and embraced uncertainty as inherent parts of the healing process. She acknowledged that recovery is not a destination but a journey marked by progress, setbacks, and continual learning. This acceptance fostered patience and resilience, enabling her to navigate challenges without despair. Hope became a guiding light, inspiring her to envision a future shaped by growth, connection, and fulfillment. Embracing the unknown with courage reflected her evolving strength and adaptability. Her personal growth during this time was profound and multifaceted. She developed greater self-awareness, emotional regulation, and relational skills. These qualities enhanced her ability to engage authentically with herself and others, fostering healthier and more satisfying connections. The transformation was holistic, encompassing mind, heart, and behavior. This comprehensive growth laid the groundwork for a life marked by balance, integrity, and joy. The journey also involved cultivating new dreams and aspirations. Freed from the constraints of past mistakes and relational turmoil, she explored possibilities for personal and professional fulfillment that resonated with her evolving identity. This expansion of vision provided motivation and direction, reinforcing her sense of agency. Pursuing these aspirations was both a manifestation of healing and a catalyst for further growth. Ultimately, this chapter represents a new beginning, a reclaiming of life after loss. It embodies the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for renewal that lies within us all. Her story is a testament to the transformative power of self-compassion, forgiveness, and hope. It illustrates that even in the wake of profound pain, it is possible to rebuild, redefine, and flourish. This phase closes one chapter of heartbreak and opens another of empowerment, connection, and meaningful living.
Thanks for watching. It means a lot. Share the video, and I'll see you soon.